Yeah.
Okay, well, hello, bonjour. My name is Lee-Ann Lavoie with Veterans Affairs Canada. So thank you for inviting me today to give you an overview of the benefits and services for families and caregivers at Veterans Affairs Canada. I'll touch a little bit briefly on some of the veterans programs because a lot of our services for families and caregivers flow through the veterans eligibility and benefits. So we'll touch just briefly on both, but for kind of the sake of time, the more the focus will be on the families and caregivers. So as we were just discussing, was about who is a veteran, what makes someone a veteran. So we have two different acts that the government created legislation and gave us a mandate to provide for veterans. And so we have our Veterans Wellbeing Act. And so that includes members of the Canadian Armed Forces, the regular force, which is kind of their full-time members. The reserve force could be a combination of full and part-time, depending on their contracts. The cadet instructor cadres are the ones who lead the cadet groups, the Canadian Ranger Patrol groups, and the militia. Then we also have the Pension Act, which has been instated since the World Wars. So that also includes our war service veterans and the RCMP. And then under both acts, we have benefits for spouses, survivors, and also children or orphans of veterans. So these acts will kind of come up throughout the presentation because the different acts provide different benefits. So while we're defining a veteran, I thought it might be useful to define who are our families and caregivers. So a spouse could be a legal marriage or a common law partnership. A dependent child, of course, anyone who's under the age of 18, or if they're over the age of 18 and have a permanent incapacity, meaning they have a physical or mental health or cognitive condition that they're unable to work and sustain themselves independently. And this can also include children that have been adopted, stepchildren, unborn children, or any child that normally lives with the veteran. So I'll give you for an example. Last year, I met a veteran, RCMP veteran, who was in his 60s, and the family circumstances had it that a grandchild came to stay with him temporarily, and that turned into a longer term situation. So we were able to add that grandchild to his pension. And then the child was in receipt of a dependent child pension under his. So that's an example that ways that we can provide dependents of veterans. And then if the child turns 18 but continues to be enrolled in some educational studies or programs, then that pension may continue up until the age of 25, as long as they're attending school. And school could be high school, post-secondary, college. Just contact us and just see if it meets that definition. And a caregiver is anyone over the age of 18 who provides unpaid care to a veteran. So this is just kind of a map about different ways that someone can connect with us in person if they'd like. So in the top left corner, you'll kind of see in the little circle, the map of BC. So we have offices in downtown Vancouver, Surrey, Victoria, Kelowna, Penticton, and Prince George. And then we have transition centers located on military bases in Comox, Esquimalt, Vancouver, and Chilliwack. And then many people are not aware, but Service Canada is also a place where people can go in person to get information about our programs. They can print out application forms. You can use their computers there if you don't have access to a computer. And then once you do have any documents or applications to send back to us, Service Canada can receive them and fax or courier them to us at no cost to the veteran or the family member. We also have operational stress injury clinics. We have 21 across the country. In BC, it's located also in Vancouver. And these are specialized mental health clinics that are staffed by psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and counselors to assess and treat veterans and their family members. So this is to tell you a little bit of how you can connect with VAC directly other ways. So in the kind of in the top left here, it says self-service MVA. MVA stands for My VAC account. So My VAC account is an online profile that a veteran and a family member that's receiving benefits from us can create. And I have a next slide to talk a little bit more about that. And then we have our NCCN, which is our National Client Contact Network. So that's our toll-free line. It's one line for Veterans Affairs across the country. And they are there to answer all your punctual questions. They can help you set up a MyVac account. And if you need some more support from someone else in the department, then they'll connect you. In the middle, here we have VSA, which stands for our Veteran Service Agents. And they are there to screen clients to better understand their needs and make sure they're supported by the right resources. And they can help clients who maybe need a little more than just a punctual question asked. They maybe need a little more support to get their benefits in place or to get treatment. And then on the far right here, we have our case manager groups. And case managers are there to support veterans who have more complex needs and would benefit maybe from our rehabilitation services or from developing a case plan with goals and putting together a treatment team. And the way we just have it set up here with the infinity symbol is that there's no like one best way for everyone. It's really an individual based on individualized needs in terms of the support they need. And once they get support, and if people are feeling like things are stabilizing, then they might move back to a veteran service agent for guided support, or they might be feeling ready that they can manage their care on their own. So those are the different people at Veterans Affairs that you might talk to. So the MyVac account, again, that's the online profile. It's secure, digital access to your own file where you can apply for benefits. You can see where your benefits are in progress. You can send us information, and you can also send us messages through a secure messaging system there. Generally speaking, we don't use email to communicate with clients because it's not considered secure, but here is a way where you can send and receive messages with us. And for family members who have benefits, they can also have a profile or for power of attorneys. So this is just kind of a general list of all the different ways that we have help for the family, and these are the things I'm going to cover in the presentation. So I've mentioned the operational stress injury clinics already, and then I'm just going to go on, but these two slides were just to give you the general overview of what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to start with the disability benefits or the pain and suffering compensation, disability pension. They're kind of same from different because we've had different acts through time. They have a different name. But essentially what it is when there is a physical or mental health injury that is somehow connected to a veteran's military RCMP service. There's an application that we would receive from the veteran. we would look at their service history and records. And if we determine that, yes, this injury is caused by their service, then they have an approved health claim with us. So how to apply? It's we have a form that the veteran needs to fill out to say that they are applying for, X health condition. The form can be as detailed or minimalist as the veteran wants. And I especially say that out of consideration for veterans that might be applying for a mental health condition, because the application form can bring up a lot of emotions or memories, but we don't need a lot of information. We will get the details in other ways, but we do need to know from the veteran that they are applying for a mental health condition, and we need their signature and date at the end. The rest of the form, we'll fill in the details afterwards. And so it's the same form, no matter what health condition it is. So you can get that form on a MyVac account. You can call us and we'll mail it to you. You can go to Service Canada and they'll print one out for you. So once we receive the application, then we will also send out a medical questionnaire, and that medical questionnaire will be filled out by a health professional. And that's depending, of course, of what the health condition is. If it's a mental health condition, then it would be from a doctor, psychiatrist, or a psychologist. Or we can also help with referring to the operational stress injury clinic, who's very specialized in doing our assessments and forms. And for any physical health condition, it could be any kind of doctor or specialist. It could also be a nurse practitioner, a chiropractor can also fill out for some conditions, and registered nurses with an EC extending qualification also. So especially for our clients that are living in more rural, remote, or northern areas, this is an important piece for them if they're not able to access a doctor easily. There are some other health professionals that can support this. So then once we get this information, then we request the military or RCMP records from the Department of National Defense or the RCMP. That's not on the veteran to secure those records. We will get those records and then we will review them and make the link of their current health to their service. As a little tip here, we also recommend that if you want to fill out a consent form, it's called the VAC 928. You can fill this out for your health professional. So if we need more information, we can talk directly with them. And as well, if you have a loved one in your life that you trust, we recommend signing a consent form with them as well, because we do have very strict privacy laws. And if ever you want someone to speak for you, or if you were ill or sick or injured and unable to communicate with us, having this form signed allows us to communicate through someone else that you've assigned and given us permission to speak with. So once we have that, we call it a favorable decision. It means once we've recognized that your current health is linked to your service somehow, then you are eligible for either a pain and suffering compensation. Our Canadian Armed Forces veterans, this is what they now receive, and it's a tax-free monthly payment as a compensation for your injury. And you can have that monthly, or you can request to have it in a lump sum. And it's based on the extent of your injury and how it's impacting you. And so we put a percentage on it from 1 to 100%. So 5%, for example, would be $71 a month, and 100% would be $1,400 a month. If you were to request that in a lump sum, then again, depending on the percentage, it could range from $23,000 up to $465,000 in the lump sum. Then the disability pension. So this is kind of where we see more of our war veterans or our RCMP that fall under the Pension Act. They receive a disability pension. Same thing, they get a tax-free monthly payment for their injury, but they don't have the lump sum option unless it's under 5%. But this pension, you can also add your spouse and children to. So as we saw on the first page, our definition of spouse and who's a child, if you give us this information, then they will also get extra amounts for a spouse and children. So the disability pension tends to give more financial compensation, but a little less access to programs and services, as we'll see later on. But the disability pension monthly ranges from 175 to just over $3,500 a month. So once we have that link to service, we've approved this health condition, then they have access to treatment benefits for that health condition. So if it's a mental health condition, they can access, mental health supports, inpatient treatment, for example, if that's required, and we will pay for that. And for physical health conditions, it could be such a wide range. It could be like physiotherapy, chiropractor, massage therapy. It could be dietitian, mobility aids, knee braces, all sorts of things. So, oh, sorry, I think I clicked pretty soon here. Here we go. So anything that's needed for the health condition is covered by us, and as well as any health-related travel expenses to go to those appointments. So we'll cover, if you have to drive, the kilometers, parking, if you're having your appointment or travel over a meal time. If you have someone from your household attending the appointment with you, we'll also cover their meals. If you need an escort for medical reasons and someone in your household can't come, then you can request to have an escort fee covered. And for people who need to travel extensively to attend their appointments, if they need to fly or a hotel stay because it's far away, then you do have to call us to get it pre-approved, but we can cover flights and hotel as well as the other expenses. And additionally, we can reassess the health condition over time. If a condition gets worse, you can request a reassessment from us. And then again, it's a shorter, simpler process than the original application, but similar. And then if that percentage goes up with the reassessment, then the compensation will increase as well. The treatment services stay the same. And we also offer to reimburse up to $500 if a veteran wants to seek out professional financial advice about, whether or not to take the monthly payment or the lump sum or how to best use their compensations. Any questions about the disability decisions and treatment benefits?
Yeah, I was wondering, can the spouse directly contact Veterans Affairs without the husband? If let's say he's a retired RCMP officer and he's suffering with
Mm-hmm.
mental health, and because of that, the spouse is suffering as well, to get support for counseling and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely if she is supporting or accompanying a veteran in that process, but we do need the veteran's signature, for example, that they are agreeing to apply for benefits, and they do themselves need to go through the assessment for the medical questionnaire to be completed for us. So that's why having the VAC 928 consent form is really helpful. So if the veteran's like, okay, I agree, I'm going to go through this process, but I don't want to do all the talking. I want my spouse or someone else to, accompany me and speak for me in the process. But we wouldn't be able to do it without any knowledge or agreement of the veteran themselves.
But what if it's coming from the spousal, sorry, so if just so
Mhm.
if I understand, if it's coming from the spousal point of view that they themselves need support because of their spouse who is
Hmm.
the RCMP or veteran,
Mhm.
is that it?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna that'll be part of showing there's different pathways that we
Okay.
can provide supports for veterans and for the family. But under these specific treatment benefits, it does flow through the veteran first. So the family benefits once the veteran is connected and has an approved health condition. Um, but there's some other options too that I'll be presenting.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank
Right.
you.
Pleasure. So once we have this health condition approved and recognized, then it can open the door to other benefits. As we've seen here, these are the ones under the Disability Pension Act. These are the ones under the Pain and Suffering Compensation, which is under the Veterans Wellbeing Act. I'll be touching on some of these today, but not all of them. I'll focus more on the ones that are relevant to the families, children, and caregivers. So under the pain and suffering compensation, um, if a veteran, passes on, then if there was an application that wasn't finalized yet, we will continue to finalize that process. And then the spouse or children would be eligible to receive that compensation. The families can also apply for a benefit that maybe the veteran hadn't applied for yet. So if they feel like we can support them in that process too, they can make the application on behalf of the veteran if they've passed on and didn't apply as yet. Or if the veteran passes away as a result of an approved health condition. So let's say a health condition was approved by us at 50% in terms of their functioning and impact, but then they actually pass on because of that health condition, then we would say that was 100%. And so the remaining percentage would then be awarded, and the spouse and child could receive that. And then under the Pension Act, um, so the disability pension continues to be payable to spouse and or children. If the RCMP member, or I guess a World War II family member or member passes away, if the pension was assessed between 5 and 47%, then the survivors will get their full pension, the veteran's full pension for a year, and then after that, it drops to 50% of the pension. But if the pension was at 48% or more, then the survivors' pensions will continue at the full rate. Some of then there was kind of that list of other benefits they can get. So these allowances are other benefits that a veteran might get once they have an approved health condition. So there is a clothing allowance. So if a veteran needs like specially made clothing, or if there's extra wear and tear on that clothing. So some of the things I might see if someone's like has a knee condition and they wear a knee brace and then it's like always rubbing on their pants and they need to replace them more quickly, they could apply for a clothing allowance. Or if a medication they take for their health condition causes like excessive sweating, or if they have to use, creams for sore joints and that stains their clothes or even it stains their bedding, then they could apply for this clothing allowance. The attendance allowance is there to assist with activities of daily living for veterans who are in receipt of a disability pension. So if they are in need of personal care, we would have them assessed in terms of the type of care that they would need. And then we would give the veteran money to then, decide how they're going to perhaps hire someone to care for them. So depending on the level of care needed, that might be from $372 a month up to $2,324 a month. And these are also tax-free benefits. And then we have the exceptional incapacity allowance. So usually if someone has a very high pensioned rate of 98% or more of disability claims with us, then we would assess them for the exceptional incapacity allowance. And it's just to recognize the significant impact that their pension health conditions have on their life and enjoyment and quality of life. And once that's assessed, then it could be anywhere from $620 up to $1,860 a month. So if a veteran passes on, the clothing allowance ends the month after they pass on, but the attendance allowance and the exceptional incapacity allowance would continue to the surviving family members for a period of 1 year. And then, so while we're on the topic of, if a veteran passes, again, if it's related to their service or related to a health condition caused by their service, then we would go through a process that's called matter of right. And that's where we would then make that connection of their health condition, excuse me, to their passing. And then we would increase the percentage accordingly. If a veteran passes and their estate is not sufficient to cover their burial costs, then we can provide support through the Last Post Fund to assist with burial expenses. And they also will provide grave markers for veterans and Allied Forces veterans if there's no grave marker for their resting site. And the Last Post Fund is specifically for Canadian Armed Forces veterans. The RCMP Veterans Association provides funds for memorials and grief assistance and also for grave markers. The caregiver recognition benefit, was introduced in 2019. And this benefit, I talked about the attendance allowance earlier, where a veteran in need of attendance can apply and they receive the funds to arrange their care. The caregiver recognition benefit is specifically for CAF veterans, and this gets paid directly to a caregiver that they designate. And again, it's for the criteria is that they have to have significant health needs that require daily physical assistance. And the person just has to be over 18 years of age and not already being paid to provide care. Oops, I'm too clicky happy here. So when we talked about your earlier question about the treatment benefits, so if a veteran has, for example, an approved mental health claim with us, that means they would have access to mental health treatment benefits through us. And so if a family member could be involved in that mental health treatment, or if they sought treatment, they could get reimbursed for it. But the criteria for this pathway is that it has to be recommended by the veteran's own treatment provider. And saying like, if the spouse or the child is involved in the veteran's treatment or gets their own treatment, it's going to have a positive effect on the veteran. So that's one of the ways that we can provide some support, and that might include family counseling, couples counseling. It could also include psych educational counseling for the family members to better understand the mental health of the veteran and the support and, and even how they can care for themselves in the process. We also have a rehabilitation program for veterans. And within the rehabilitation program, family members might also be involved to the extent that it's going to help the veteran reach their rehabilitation goals. Under this specific place, veterans or family members are not eligible for individual counseling in their own right for this specific program. But like I said, there are some other options that they can look at as well. So just for the rehabilitation program, I just kind of wanted to show that here. This is for our CAF veterans. And if a veteran has a health problem that is impacting their functioning or that transition to civilian life, they can apply for this program, and it includes medical, psychosocial, and vocational assistance. If we determined that they're not able to use the vocational benefits because they're not able to work, then some of those benefits could be transferred to a spouse, particularly if that spouse is not employed or if they're at risk of losing their employment, then they can use the veterans' vocational benefits. While a veteran is participating in the program, they have the option to apply for an income replacement benefit. So this would make sure that they are earning the total of their revenues or 90% of their last military salary. But the minimum amount would be $60,000 a year. So for example, if someone who is a part-time reservist applied for the rehab program, maybe their military salary would have been quite minimal because of the part-time nature of the reservists. But even then, the minimal amount would be 60,000. Sorry, I just have a little something in my throat here. Sorry. The income replacement benefit, if that becomes a permanent benefit for the veteran who's not able to be employed and he passes, then it would be passed on to surviving spouses and or dependent children. And that's divided 50-50 between the spouses and the children. So within this program, under the psychosocial, this is the part where the veterans family members could participate to support the veteran to reach their goals. Another option that they can explore for supports is the group health insurance, which is the public service healthcare plan under the Canada Life Insurance Company. So many veterans, when they're leaving the military, they may opt to continue their plan because this is the plan they have in the military. Same for RCMP, same for myself as a public service with Veterans Affairs Canada. So they have to be eligible to join the plan. Also, veterans who are participating in the rehabilitation program are eligible to join. So this also includes, it's like an extended health insurance. So it includes psychological supports, for example. So this is another area where family members could access psychological services. And then kind of a little bit fairly new is the Veteran Family Telemedicine Service. So this is part of a partnership that the CAF has for veterans that are leaving the military. So all veterans who released on or after April 1st, 2025 can access this telemedicine service for up to 2 years. And so it's staffed by doctors, specialists, nurse practitioners, and it's just meant as a temporary medical support while they're transitioning into civilian life and just needing time to get settled in to find their own family doctor that will follow them longer term. And this is available for the whole family. So another benefit that a veteran can access once they have an approved health condition with us is if they are struggling to care for themselves in or outside their home, we have the Veterans Independence Program. And so this is a financial tax-free benefit to help them remain independent and self-sufficient in their home and community. And it helps with ground maintenance, housekeeping, snow removal, access to nutrition, personal care, home adaptations. And so it gets paid out twice a year. We don't ask for receipts, but the money is provided for them to then seek the help that they need when they need it. So if a veteran has this program, which we call VIP, in place, and they pass away, their primary caregiver or spouse could also request that the housekeeping and groundskeeping grant continue for them if they have a health need. If it wasn't in place when they passed away, the only eligible group to apply for it would be the spouses of our Second War and Korean War veterans. If they're low income and have health needs, then they can apply for this program if it wasn't in place at the time of the veteran's passing. And additional people who can provide supports to veterans or families, the RCMP has a liaison officer. So they can help RCMP still serving members or veterans access community resources, apply for VAC disability benefits applications. And the military family resource centers have a military veteran family program. And so they're to help the whole family. Even after they've transitioned out of the military, they can still keep that connection with the Family Resource Center. They have some really good programs I've heard about, especially the Couples Overcoming PTSD program. I know they've offered different courses and retreats for spouses of veterans who have an operational stress injury. And they also offer the mental health first aid class, which is about a 2 to 3 day course for kind of lay people to better understand mental health and how to intervene and how to provide support. The Operational Stress Injury Social Support is a national peer support network. So they have support, peer supports that are just for CAF members, and some that are specifically for veterans, and others that are specifically for families. And I know that for the family ones, it's not limited like to spouse or children, but it could be a sibling or a parent or kind of anyone who is like a close loved one of the veteran. And then some more kind of self-access supports would be the LifeSpeak, which is an online platform with just like hundreds, if not thousands, of different educational resources, articles, video capsules on all sorts of life things that come up. And then we also offer free access to the PTSD Coach app and the OSI Operational Stress Injury Connect app. And so these are just there to support veterans and the families as well to better understand the mental health challenges that they're facing and find tools and resources for them. This one is a Veterans Emergency Fund. So this is a public trust fund that Veterans Affairs Canada administers to the veteran community, and it provides emergency supports to CAF veterans and their families and their survivors, spouses and children. If they have an unforeseen financial emergency that threatens their health and well-being. So we can help with like food security, housing, and anything else that's kind of required. Oh, sorry, I just forget the mental health first aid course. Sorry, that shouldn't be there. But any expenses to maintain their health and well-being. And then the RCMP Veterans Association has their own emergency funds as well for RCMP veterans and family members. Under the Veterans Emergency Fund that we administer, people are eligible to apply for up to $2,500 in a calendar year. And if there's a really exceptional need or circumstance, we could provide more than that as well. But it's not meant to cover expenses that are ongoing in nature. It's really for something unexpected that they couldn't anticipate, and it's meant to resolve that need. I guess some other resources too that are not with VAC, but I often tell people about is the Royal Canadian Legion Poppy Fund is also available for emergencies. And I know that many of the legions will even offer, small amounts like a gas card or a grocery card for people that walk in and are in need. And they can also, take requests from people for larger needs. In the Royal Canadian Legion in BC, the Legion Foundation is a recipient of the Homelessness Veterans Funds this year. So these are funds that are provided through Infrastructure Canada to address veteran homelessness across the country. It is specifically for veterans, but that's just another resources I just wanted to be sure to mention. And then the VAC Assistant Service. So this is a free mental health and support service for veterans and spouses and children up to age 25. It has two functions. One, it is a 24-hour a day. There's a crisis counselor available. So you can call any time of day or night and speak to a counselor right away. And the second function is a counseling referral service. So they will refer you to a counselor in your community or one that you can access virtually. A veteran does not need to have an approved health claim with us. They don't even have to be a Veterans Affairs client to access this service. They just have to be a veteran. So the veteran and or their family member can get up to 20 sessions a year for a mental health issue. And in the event that that they're seeking some bereavement support because the veteran has passed away, the families can get up to 30 sessions in a year. And so that's the phone numbers to reach them, and then the QR code to access. They have a chat service where you can talk to them via chat to get something set up. This would be an example where if the veteran's family member wanted to get some counseling and support, they can access this on their own. They don't need to go through the veteran to have this service. And then finally, just for our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis veteran community, we have a partnership with Indigenous Services Canada, where we can refer to them and they can access support for cultural and emotional supports. And this is over and above what they would get from us for treatment services. But if they want to access like an elder or knowledge keepers or any other cultural supports, we can help them connect with the supports in their community. And then these are just just a page of all the different ways to contact us. Like I said, we have just one toll-free line for the whole country, and it's someone to take your call during business hours, Monday to Friday. And the VAC Assistant Service that we just reviewed is the 24-hour mental health support service here. And this is the email for the team I'm part of, the Indigenous Veterans Engagement Team. People can email us there, can see us in person at any of our offices, send us a secure message on the MyVac account, or just visit our website. And that is the end.